Hey, it's Dr. Scott again. Just wanted to go and address something that I hear a lot in practice. A lot of my patients will ask about the best way to take advantage of weight loss when they're doing cardio. And so a lot of folks don't know that the best time to do cardiovascular training is first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. If you do it first thing in the morning, you're doing it when you're on a prolonged fast and your body is using fat as its primary fuel source. So if your goal is to try and lose body fat, the absolute best time to be able to go and do cardio is first thing in the morning on an empty stomach doing 20 to 30 minutes of cardiovascular training. Now, depending upon what your fitness goals are, what your timeline is, determines basically the type of cardiovascular training that you're going to do. If you are trying to just straight lose weight, you can do steady state cardiovascular where you're just doing walking on a treadmill, walking outside, riding a bike, something steady state. Your body is going to be able to go and maintain a relatively high level of fat consumption. You can spike it by adding an interval training. Interval training will help you to really accelerate the fat loss pace. That would be things like doing interval biking, interval sprinting, anything that is going to go up and down your respiratory rate, spiking the metabolism every time that you go through an interval. Both are great. Both will make a dramatic impact on your fat consumption, fat loss, helping you to make that next step in your weight loss journey. Then the big thing is as soon as you get done, depending upon what your goal is, are you going to train immediately afterwards, lifting weights, or are you heading to work? It's important to feed your body immediately, okay? Because if you don't eat something pretty quickly after you get done training in the morning, then you're going to start really having to worry about dipping into to lean muscle mass as a source of energy. So you're always fighting this fine balance. The body wants to go after burning fat when you do cardiovascular training in the morning, but if you go too long, the body will start to consume muscle as a source of energy, especially if your pace and your intensity are too high. That's why it's important to not go crazy on cardiovascular training first thing in the morning. I've found over the years that you can do a little bit less and get a great result as far as for fat burning by doing something as simple as hill walking. You turn the pace up a little bit to a 3.5, 4 mile per hour range, and start messing with the incline. You work harder, so you can get the cardiovascular system working harder, but not to the point where you're working at a super high level of output, and it'll keep your body within that fat burning zone. And that's an important thing. You want to try and keep the body in a place where you're still cardiovascular. When you can't breathe and talk at the same time, then you're getting out of the cardiovascular training aerobic zone, and you're getting more into the anaerobic zone, which is not where you want to be. So you want to be able to go and maintain your breath. All right, so focus on trying to stay within that cardiovascular zone when you're training, keeping the intensity to a point where it's moderate, not too high, when you're really focusing on fat burning. Performance training is an entirely different animal. If you're training for performance, it's important to eat before you train. You just have to go and feed the machine. Otherwise, you sacrifice muscle, you sacrifice performance. So always focus on making sure that you've got fuel in the system if you're training to compete for a marathon or a half marathon or a 5K. But if you're just trying to burn body fat off right now, the biggest thing you want to focus on is cardiovascular training first thing in the morning. 30 or so minutes is probably optimal. Some people like to do 2 training sessions. If you have time to try and hit your goal, try 1. If you're getting kind of close, you can add in a second cardiovascular session later on in the day. But the big thing that you really want to focus on with that is you have to have enough time after a meal or after training for that second cardiovascular session. So I always recommend, if you're going to do a second cardio session, or if you have to do cardiovascular training in the evening, do it immediately after you get done with your weight training, because you've dramatically increased the metabolic rate. So the best thing to do at that point in time is train intensely. Keep the pace of your training very high, right? Higher rep ranges, shorter rest windows in between, making sure that you're not giving the body too much time to recover, keeping the metabolic rate really high, okay? Then, as soon as you get done, switch over and do your cardio. Now, if you want to go and do something that's a little higher intensity at that point, some sprint training, things like that, that'd be a good time to take advantage of it, because you're not on a prolonged fast. You're not as likely to start going after your muscle tissue as a source of energy. So then if you want to go into a little higher intensity, that would be just fine. All right, so hope this is helpful, and keep your eyes and ears open for the next episode. This is Dr. Scott Haggerty with BE-ELITE.org.